Look at yourself. You are the only animal on Earth that wakes up and thinks, I need pants. Every other large mammal on this planet is perfectly content wandering around exactly as they were born. Gorillas, lions, horses, elephants, hippos. They all exist across wildly different environments, and they are all walking around in full, permanent coats. But if you try that, not only will you freeze, you will probably get arrested. We literally built an entire legal system around the concept of please put something on. We are so obsessed with clothing that the state will intervene if you are too naked. So why are we the weird ones? When did our ancestors look at a perfectly good animal skin and say, that belongs on me? And more importantly, why did we do it when basically every other creature just didn't? The answer involves a massive evolutionary gamble, a desperate fight for survival, and surprisingly, lice. To understand why we wear clothes, we first have to understand why we desperately need them. Here is a fact that nobody talks about enough. Humans are essentially the only large mammals on Earth that are completely, embarrassingly naked. Zoologically speaking, standing in the middle of all this biodiversity, we are just smooth, weirdly pink in some places and sporting an evolutionary look that says we made some bad choices. Scientists call this the naked ape problem, and the most popular explanation for it is the thermoregulation argument. Millions of years ago, our ancestors moved from shady, dense forests out into the wide-open African grasslands. They started running long distances to hunt. If you are covered in a thick layer of fur and you are running for miles under the blazing savanna sun, you are going to overheat. Your core temperature will spike, you will collapse, and you will die hungry. So, evolution made a choice. Over hundreds of thousands of years, we traded our fur for something better. We developed an absolutely insane number of sweat glands. Humans have approximately 2 to 4 million sweat glands on their bodies. That is more than almost any other animal on the planet. We are, without exaggeration, elite, professional-grade sweating machines. If there were Olympics for moisture emitting, we would dominate every single category. This was a brilliant strategy for hunting in the summer heat. We could run animals to the point of exhaustion just by outcooling them. But this evolutionary superpower created a massive vulnerability. Being completely hairless is great in the heat, but it is a total disaster when the temperature drops to 40 below zero and you are standing in a blizzard with nothing but a rock. The conventional story is pretty simple and very tidy. Humans eventually migrated out of Africa, hit colder climates in Europe and Asia, realized they were freezing, and wrapped themselves in animal skins. It makes perfect sense. A 5-year-old could figure it out, except the timeline doesn't actually work. Modern humans did not start migrating out of Africa in massive numbers until around 70,000 years ago. But the genetic evidence suggests that we started wearing clothes long before that. So, if clothes were purely a response to the freezing cold, why were they appearing tens of thousands of years before humans actually went anywhere cold? Something else had to be going on. But how do we even know when the first outfit was worn? Fabric doesn't fossilize, animal hides rot away in a few years. We don't have ancient prehistoric closets to dig up. This is where the story gets incredibly weird and exactly as gross as it sounds. We need to talk about the louse. Researchers at the University of Florida were doing what geneticists do, staring at very small things for incredibly long periods of time, when they decided to map the evolutionary history of human lice. Here is the crucial piece of biology you need to understand. Humans have 2 main types of lice: head lice, which live in your hair, and body lice, which live specifically in your clothing. Body lice live in the seams, the folds, and the fabric. They are genetically distinct from head lice, and they cannot survive on bare human skin. They need the warmth and shelter that a woven material or animal hide provides. This means that body lice could not exist until clothing existed. By tracking the DNA mutation rates, these researchers found exactly when body lice evolved from head lice. The moment that genetic split happened is the exact moment humans started wearing clothes consistently enough to create a new ecological home for a parasite. When they ran the numbers, the results were staggering. Body lice diverged from head lice somewhere between 83,000 and 170,000 years ago. Let that sit for a moment. A parasitic insect, one of the most universally hated creatures in human history, accidentally preserved the earliest evidence of human fashion. The lice knew when we got dressed before we did. They adapted, they moved into our clothes, and they recorded our history. It is both beautiful and deeply horrifying. So, if it wasn't just to survive the winter snow, what were those earliest clothes actually for? Theory number one is basic physical protection. Imagine spending your days walking through tall grass, thorny scrubland, and tracking animals across sharp, rocky terrain. You don't have a protective coat of fur anymore. A simple wrap made from thick animal hide creates a meaningful barrier between your skin and the things that want to scratch, bite, or burn it. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't philosophically deep, but it kept early humans comfortable and reduced deadly infections from small cuts. Sometimes the most boring answer is the right one. But theory number two is where human nature really takes over: social signaling. Humans are, at our core, profoundly social and status-obsessed animals. We are constantly communicating who we are, what group we belong to, and what status we hold. Before we even wore clothes, there is hard evidence that our ancestors were using pigments like ochre for body decoration as far back as 200,000 years ago. We were painting ourselves before we were dressing ourselves. The jump from decorating your skin to wearing a particular kind of hide isn't a large cognitive leap. Once the hide is on, you start making choices. Is this the hide of something powerful? Did I kill it myself? Does wearing it say something about my rank? Welcome to the very first fashion industry. A small band of Homo sapiens on the savanna arguing about who gets to wear the leopard skin. For most of early human history, clothing probably looked incredibly rough. A heavy skin draped over the shoulders, held in place with a cord made of twisted animal sinew. It was functional but ungainly, the prehistoric equivalent of wearing a heavy garbage bag. But then, around 50,000 years ago, something explosive happens in the archaeological record. Researchers start finding bone needles, not just pointed tools for punching holes, but actual needles with tiny eyes bored through them, designed for threading. The oldest confirmed needle was found in Denisova Cave in Siberia, and it is a masterpiece of early engineering. Someone looked at a sliver of bird bone, envisioned a tool that did not exist, and figured out how to use it to join two pieces of material with a controlled, repeatable stitch. This object represents a cognitive leap that changed the world. It meant humans could finally make fitted clothing, garments shaped to the body with sealed seams that trapped heat inside. You can live without pottery, you can live without cave paintings, but in Siberia, 50,000 years ago, in the depths of a glacial winter, you absolutely cannot survive without properly fitted clothing. And we weren't the only ones doing it. Neanderthals were also making and wearing clothes well before they ever encountered us. We have found specific stone tools they used that were clearly designed for working leather and scraping hides. They had physiological adaptations to the cold, and they managed carcasses in ways that proved they wanted the skin just as much as the meat. And then, there are the Denisovans, the mysterious third human lineage discovered in that same Siberian cave. In the same layers of dirt as the needle, researchers found pierced and polished ornaments. A people we barely know existed were already thinking about decoration and garment embellishment. This raises an unsettling question. Is clothing an exclusively human thing? Or is it just what any smart, bipedal primate living in a harsh environment would inevitably invent? Eventually, there was another massive transition: the shift from animal hides to woven plant fibers. Around 30,000 years ago, humans started spinning plant fibers into thread and weaving them into fabric. The oldest known twisted fibers were found in a cave in Georgia, and crucially, they were already dyed in multiple colors. They weren't just making functional fabric, they were making intentional art. This led to something revolutionary: the wardrobe, clothing that could be specialized. A heavy cloak for winter, a light wrap for summer, specific garments for rituals, and specific colors for mourning. Clothing became a system of expression rather than just an object of survival. Entire empires were eventually financed by the textile industry. Wars were fought over silk and wool. And it all started with a cold, naked primate holding a piece of bone. Today, you are doing exactly what that ancient human did on the African savanna. Whatever you are wearing right now, you made a choice about what image you are presenting to the world. It is a direct, unbroken line of 150,000 years of human history. We lost our fur, we got cold, we got creative, and we got dressed. And then we spent the rest of our lives complaining that we have absolutely nothing to wear. Some things genuinely never change. What about you? Would you go back in time and live completely naked, or are you thankful someone invented pants? Let me know in the comments below. If you learned something new today, please hit that like button and subscribe to Ancient Origins for more incredible stories from our past. Until next time, stay curious.